Welcome to the Burial Plot Horror Podcast with Brenda Tolian and Joy Yaley.
Welcome back to Burial Plot. If this is your initiation, prepare yourself for a 6 feet deep dig into things writerly and spooky. I'm horror writer Joy Yaley, and I'm here with my co-host, Brenda Tolian. Today, we have our first double service with writers P.L. McMillan and Solomon Forse. P.L. is a Canadian expat living in the U.S. After teaching English for 3 years in Asia, she writes of all things murderous, macabre, and monstrous. She has been described as one of the next great cosmic horror writers. In addition to her dark compositions, PL is an accomplished artist working with cross-stitch, digital art, oil painting, and resin art. Her latest piece, Sanitize, can be found in Cosmic Horror Monthly issue number 8. Solomon Forse teaches English during the day and reads and watches and writes horror at all other times. You might find him role-playing horror with tabletop RPGs like Call of Cthulhu or shredding horror on the guitar in his Lovecraft-themed black metal band Crafteon. Solomon is the founder of the horror-obsessed Writing and Literature Society, otherwise known as HOWLs, that is releasing its first anthology, Howls from Hell, on May 18th. P.L. and Solomon, welcome to the Burial Plot.
Thank you. It's really awesome to be invited here. I kind of felt weird that oil painting was in my bio because I quit that after half a year because I was awful at it. I got it all over my hair and my face. So I don't know if I can say I'm very good at it.
Well, that's the whole point, right? Is to get it all over everywhere. Right?
I mean, that's true. That, or beat the devil out of it, as I learned from one of my idols.
Perfect.
And actually, Solomon's wearing one of my digital art pieces on his shirt.
Yeah, let me see if I can hold it up. Can you guys see that?
Oh, that's very cool.
That's nice.
I think my necklace is in the way. And this was part of one of the pieces you illustrated, I think, for our anthology, right?
Yeah, The Pigeon Lied.
Awesome.
Solomon is one of my Instagram models.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'll just say thanks for having me. I'm really excited. I really like both of you as writers. Joy, I love your story, and Tara at 5280, and that's where I first read your work. And then I think, Brenda, I first read some of your stuff in a critique session with Denver Horror Collective, but I also just read Snake Man in Twisted Pulp magazine. That story is really good. So
that's a fun one.
I really liked it.
Oh, thank you. We've been following your anthology, kind of the beginning of it and the artwork and its release, and it looks like a pretty big undertaking. We really are wanting to know anything you can tell us about it, but especially I'm kind of curious myself about the process and what the society is and all of these things. So I'm so glad you guys are on with us.
Cool. Yeah, I'd love to talk about the process and maybe just go back in history to the formation of HOWLs Society last year, if that's okay.
Oh, we'd love that.
Yes, please.
Cool. So HOWLs Society, it stands for the Horror Obsessed Writing and Literature Society. I don't know how many listeners are familiar with Reddit, but probably a lot of them. And it was born out of the subreddit HorrorLit, if listeners are familiar with that one. And so during the lockdown stage of the pandemic back in March 2020, there were a lot of people stuck in their homes who needed the socializing and the contact with other human beings, and they had extra time on their hands because, a lot of people weren't working as much or got furloughed. So there are a lot of readers who were interested in reading horror and discussing it. And so this girl named Emily put up this post on HorrorLit asking if anyone wanted to start a quarantine book club for horror novels. And the post just blew up, and I was one of the first people in. And so we moved everything over to Discord. which is a lot better than Reddit for discussion. And so I'm a perfectionist, and I'm sure you all know, like with any experience in teaching, like you have to have organization or it's just chaos and you'll lose your mind. And so I like voiced some concerns and about the organization, and Emily just granted me moderator powers, and then she just disappeared. And I think maybe she just went back to work, but now we call her the sleeping queen. But I really just took it on myself because all of my classes had switched to virtual, and my school, I don't know about you, Brenda, but my school announced, like, if you had a passing grade before the lockdown, your grade is locked in. And all the kids are like, oh, I don't have to do anything for the rest of the year. So I didn't have a lot of teaching to do. So that gave me the time to really organize the Discord server, but it's really built by the community. So right now we have, I think we have over 1,000 members. I would say probably 100 of those are like actually on every day and involved in conversations, but everything is just community feedback, and then I just try to implement it in an organized fashion. So it started as just a loose book club where because of everyone had a lot of time, we were reading one book a week, and we still do that. However, like most people don't have the time, so they just kind of drop in and out as it works with their schedule. But now there's so many things going on. The book discussion formats are really organized, and I don't know how many of you have ever like tried to join an online book club, but I found that like nobody really goes in depth with conversation. But for us, it's incredible. I mean, some of the discussion is on par with, like my grad level literature classes that I've taken. And it's so cool to read horror novels like as literature with other like-minded people. But now we have a voting system for the books we read, and we have members that curate their own categories. So like every month, we have 4 weeks of books, and we have people put together their own themes. So like, for example, one of our members, Anthony Frost, put together a category called Pro Tag Dirtbag, and it's for like books with like kind of unlikable main characters. And so we'll get to see his list here in a couple days, and then we'll vote, and it's really exciting. And there's just been this wave of people joining, and it's almost been too much for me. So I added a few moderators, and I just wanted to say thanks to those people. I know like a lot of Howl Society members are probably going to tune in for this. So thanks to Brandon Bernstein, Thea Mave, and Christopher O'Halloran for holding down the ship. Something else that's been cool is we started inviting one author a month to come speak with us, and it's just blown my mind at like the authors that have said yes. So we've already had Ramsey Campbell, Tananarive Due, Tim Wagoner, and then coming up in a couple weeks, Brian Evanson is going to join us to talk about Last Days. And I kind of thought a lot of these authors just like maybe wouldn't have time for us, but it's amazing that all of them have said yes. And now we have like these relationships with these well-known authors, and I don't know, it's really, really cool. Just a couple more things I'll mention. We have our own website now, featuring some art from PL. And I think I was going to ask her to talk about art in a little bit, so she can talk about that if she wants. But the design and layout is just beautiful, and that was put together by one of our members, Angela Ekstrand. And all of these people are just volunteering their time, and like honestly, nothing in Howl Society would happen without all of these people volunteering. We have an annual awards system now for the HOWLs Awards, which is really cool. And so for 2020, our read of the year was B.R. Yeager's Negative Space. And I think that novel maybe kind of went under the radar. But yeah, I think it was one of the best books I read last year, and everyone really enjoyed it. And he's such a cool dude. I don't know if you guys have heard Ghoulish, which is Max Booth's podcast, but B.R. Yeager was just on there talking about haunted Massachusetts history. and like talking about haunted train tunnels and stuff. And it was the coolest episode I've listened to in a long time. And there's like lots of other non-book club discussion things going on. Like Brenda, I know you would probably be interested in this because I know you're pursuing a PhD right now, correct?
Yeah, so I'll be starting that in August, and just everything you're talking about is just like, I don't know. It sounds very intriguing. I haven't had time to jump on yet, but you're definitely making me want to jump in there with all
Right.
the
So
authors and stuff. That sounds really awesome.
yeah, I was mentioning that because we now have like a small community for people who want to study horror in academia. And so one of our members is a college professor, Katie Troyer at Trinity University, just like put together just kind of like a casual course for like a survey of critical theory and horror, and like a bunch of people jumped on that. And I think she also runs a podcast called Such a Nightmare. I wish I could keep up with all the podcasts out there.
Yeah.
Like it is insane. Like I figured horror is a small community. There's probably only like a handful, and like nope, there's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we also have a writing community, and PL is like super active in that group. So maybe PL, you would want to talk about the writing community?
Well, I think this it's kind of funny. Solomon invited me, I forget how long after this group started, and I refused to join for the longest time because I was like, I'm never gonna like join. Like, I don't want to be in these discussions. Like, I already get so many notifications on my phone. And I finally joined, and I lurked for a good 4 months, I think, something absurd. I was just like lurking in the shadows, not talking to anyone. And I finally went into this. We have a self-promotion channel where you can post new things so people know where to look. So I'd been published, so I posted there. And one of the mods was like, hey, just so you know, like it's kind of in bad taste to just join so you can promote your work. And I was like, I've been here for months, I swear. And like Solomon had to like vouch for me that I wasn't just like this person jumping in to like post and self-promotion and leave. But since then, like I got called out, like, and people were like making fun of me. So I started like talking more. But yeah, so the writer's corner is the most frequent place I visit. And it's just a really awesome community where people can support each other. You can submit your works and get peer reviews, like even like same day. Like you could be like, yeah, oops, I left this. It's the deadline's on Friday. Can you get it to me by tomorrow? And people will like jump on and you'll get 3 reviews in a few hours. So that's always really useful for people who procrastinate like me. And that's where the idea for the anthology started, was in that channel. Besides that, again, like I tend to lurk on only a few channels, and I don't like talking to people whose names I don't recognize. I'm still like kind of like that. I'm sure there's other people. So if anyone's worried that they have to talk to everyone, trust me, I don't. Solomon can confirm I don't. But another one is a channel for gaming started up, which I'm often in, where you can find people to join your Dead by Daylight or Phasmophobia games, which for me was really great because none of my friends wanted to play it. So it was nice finding people who'd play it with me. And actually, that spawned off, one of our mods created a Twitch channel. So this is Thea Mave, and her Twitch handle is Thea Mave TV. Subscribe with Prime. But you can jump on and watch the HOWLs community play games together. So that's pretty funny. That has led to some pretty funny moments. And I guess also from there, you get a lot of spin-offs. Like I started my Call of Cthulhu campaign off of interested parties from the gaming community. Yeah. So 3 channels. That's where I am in the 3 channels. But yeah, so if people want to join, I know you said you'd be putting the links in the channel description, so they can just go to howlsociety.com, which has everything, or they can click on the link that you'll provide. Our review, all the information is in the About section on the website, so people can just go there.
Does it cost anything to have a membership?
No, because we wanted to make it available to anyone, anywhere in the world. Membership is completely free. You just have to have the Discord app, which is also free, either on your computer or your phone. If you do get it on your phone, I would recommend like maybe muting some of the channels, because by God, do people just keep talking? I have like 80% of the channels muted just because, and even with the few channels I have, I probably get like 70 or 80 messages a day. So it's like quite a lot. Like when we say we're the most active online book club there is, we are. Like people will, even new members will join and they'll go to the archived book club channels and they'll read what is said and they'll ping their own thoughts, and members who've already read it will jump back in to start discussing. So it's pretty cool in that way.
How do you guys choose the books to read? Is it basically just everybody votes, or a few are put up, or can an author approach your group and say, hey, would you guys be willing to read my book?
Yeah,
I
I can
guess,
talk about that. I think I probably didn't explain it very well earlier, but we have members, like once you've been in the club for so long, I reach out to that person and be like, hey, would you like to curate a category? So every month we just have a big poll, and for that poll, there's 4 categories for the upcoming 4 weeks of the month. And so usually it's like a thematic list with up to 6 books. And then we vote on it over a week, and it's amazing because everybody's like campaigning for their book, and it like causes some like drama between people, and there's division and like accusations of people voting twice. But it's so much fun. And like when we first started out, like right after we came off Reddit, like it was so disorganized, and I felt like some people just didn't get a say. But now like everyone has a voice, and like people get so excited when I reach out to them. I'm like, hey, do you want to put together a thematic book list? And they're like, oh my God, yes. And I don't know, it's just it's so much fun. And we had a really cool event recently that Brandon Bernstein put together for like March Madness. So what he did is I'm sure you guys are like at least generally familiar with like the March Madness NCAA basketball tournament. But what he did is took the runner up of every single poll since our club's formation, so all the books that like lost by a couple votes, and like put them into a bracket against each other. And I think we had like votes every couple days, and it was so much fun to do. And I think like a lot of people say like they love this club so much just for like the voting on books, and it's a ton of fun.
It
So
sounds
it's,
like,
I'm
oh,
sorry, Rick, go ahead.
well, I was just going to say, it sounds like you guys are doing something, well, unique. So you guys are plugged in at, I guess, through, pop culture, but then also are utilizing all these tools. I'm going to say the young people's tools, because some of these tools are like I like Discord. I just figured out because my sister and my nephew helped me figure it out for like family gaming or something and stuff. So there's all these tools that are very underutilized, it sounds like, and down to like Reddit. Like, my daughter is very much into Reddit, and she's like, did you hear this about, something about Mexican Gothic, did you hear this? And it was on, this blah, blah, Reddit. And, they're tools that I don't utilize enough, that I think are really important. But you're also reaching more people because you're in all these different areas. And especially I love the discussion about books, not just as, oh, I like horror and we're going to talk about this, but you guys are also hitting it at thematic levels, or more academic, I guess, in some ways, that I think definitely is helpful to our students. you know and definitely, academically, horror needs to be explored more. There's so many topics, and as I was just telling a student this morning, is like horror is a commentary on society, and it's such a strong tool and stuff. So what you guys have managed to do in the little amount of time that you've been doing it is just commendable. Like, bravo, you guys are really, really, this is very cool.
Thank you. And I think the cool thing is it's like bravo to a community because it's just a bunch of people all collaborating, putting their ideas together. And I mean, so many ideas are like not even mine. Somebody's just like, hey, let's do this. And then somebody will chime in like, well, what if we did it this way? And then we organize it and then it works. And I don't know, it just says a lot about the power of just people to like human beings to come together and build something. And like you said, like there's a lot of new tools out there and there's just something about Discord, like it's just limitless in what you can do with community building. And like it, like PL was saying, like there's always something happening on there. Like it's just a infinite living text now. And like she was saying, like book discussions from a year ago, like someone will jump in there and talk about one of the very first books we read, you know, like I think what would be one, The Cabin at the End of the World by Paul Tremblay. It was either like the first or second book we read, and people are constantly going back and posting in there, and it's like there's just this endless loop of people discussing that book. I don't know, which is, it's just so cool. I really like Discord, and I'm so glad that I gave it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say, it sounds more like this is a community more than just a book club, with lots of different facets, for everybody to find a niche and a place where they could belong and contribute, which is very, very cool. And I love that it's just kind of grassroots. That's amazing. And that just kind of is the thing with horror, right? People that love it are usually the nicest, most giving, creative people you can meet. We're not like, digging, well, maybe some of us are digging graves in our backyard and being spooky, but usually the horror community is very giving and cooperative with each other. One thing I thought was really cool is you guys, the HOWLs has put out an anthology, Howls from Hell, a horror anthology. And I was hoping you guys could just tell us a little bit about that and when that's going to be released and how we might get our claws on it.
You got it. So yeah, House from Hell, a horror anthology. I think by the time listeners are hearing this, it will be out because the release date is May 18th. It's in paperback, ebook, and audiobook on Amazon and really any other major booksellers. You're gonna find it in some format. And so it was born out of this Howl Society. So PL talked a little bit about the Writers Corner channel, which started out with like, 5 or 6 writers like, hey, I'm trying to write horror. And like now today, I think we have about 40 or 50 horror writers in there. And like now a handful of them are like writers who have already been published many times. And so we have a good mix of new and experienced writers. Um, but anyways, it was all just kind of an experiment. So like PL said, we had our own critique system. And that was put together by Christopher O'Halloran, who's like our Google Sheets, or which is like the Microsoft Excel of Google. He's a Google Sheets wizard, and he put together our critique system. And after a few months, we realized like, wow, like we have some talent in here. And so I was wondering like, well, what if we all took our best stories and then we did like a sort of like critique process in which we went through collaborative rounds of like developmental editing and then some copy editing. And then if we get far enough to proofreading, like if we just start with, rough drafts and we go through this process, like could our stories we were all fairly unknown authors other than just like 2 or 3 of us, could we stand alongside like the best horror being published today? And so far, I think the answer is yes. We've had, I think we're at about 60 reviews, like article reviews posted so far, at least those who have put them on Goodreads as well. And the response has been overwhelmingly positive. I think we're above a 4-star average right now. And there's always negative reviews. So I think we've had a couple 2 stars, but even for those, the people are like, this writing doesn't suck. It's just, I don't know, this isn't for me.
We also
And so
we got a lot of the lower star reviews. It was because we weren't themed. They were like, this doesn't have a theme. I really prefer themed anthologies. And we're like, oh, sorry.
yeah, so I mean, the majority have had a really positive response to the book, and we are lucky though, because I think a reason we've been able to really get the book out there is because it has a particular horror writer's name on it, which is Grady Hendrix. And so what's really cool is this all comes back to Grady Hendrix because he was one of the moderators of Horror Lit many years ago, who really breathed some new life into that subreddit, because now it has like 180,000 subscribers or something. And he had put some special events on there and some AMAs and tried to clean up the subreddit. And without him, I probably would not have found Horror Lit or met any of these people. And so like, it's kind of weird because Howl Society would not have exist if Grady Hendrix had not revitalized Horror Lit. So when I reached out to him, he was more than happy to be like, yeah, these are my people. And so he wrote the foreword for us, and I really encourage anyone to buy the book just for the foreword. I'm not even kidding. Like I'm a military vet. I pride myself on my ability to like hold my emotions back, and it like made me squeeze some tears out. It's such a beautiful foreword, and it's all about basically horror as family. And I think everyone who's mentioned the foreword had talked about like how much it touched them. So having his name on there has really helped us, because I think if we were just a random hodgepodge of new horror writers putting together our own anthology, like I don't think many reviewers would want to take a risk on it. But a lot of Grady Hendrix fans, saw his name like, oh yeah, we'll give it a try. So that has helped. Um, I've been spending all of my free time the past few months on our promotion campaign. And like as a teacher, I kind of don't really have free time. So I've lost a lot of sleep, but put a lot of work into getting the book to reviewers, either through email or Twitter or Instagram, or sending books in the mail, advertising in magazines, podcasts, on social media. I think right now, listeners, I think our book trailer is done, and by the time they hear this, they could go check out our book trailer on YouTube for Howls from Hell, which is by Johnny DiCarlo and the Presenters Agency. And PL, do you remember what you said about our book trailer?
Nope.
That's funny. PL was like, "Oh my God, this is the best book trailer
Oh
I've
yeah,
ever seen in my life."
that was really late at night. You can't expect me to remember that.
Yeah, I think most people don't know book trailers are even a thing. I don't think I knew they were a thing until like a year ago. But I think the promotion has really helped, and I have to say thanks to the Howl Society members, because I think most indie presses struggle with being able to afford to promote their books. But we had almost $2,000 in donations from Howl Society members over just like a couple weeks. And like, I've put in a lot of my own money, but most of it is from donations from our members. And like, I think the book is doing so well because of that. And I think our book release event will have finished by the time listeners hear this, but that's something that PL put together, and I'm really excited. I'm dressing up in a costume to read my story. And so yeah, thanks PL for putting that together. I appreciate it.
PL,
Some other people.
did you do the artwork for the cover of the book? Was that your work?
Yeah, I did the artwork, and then Molly Collins did the design, to make sure it was all cohesive. So I guess that was the first time I actually did a large piece of art for commercial use. And the main team for the illustrations, I did like the interior illustrations, because actually something really unique about Howls from Hell is each story has its own a piece of artwork that is at the first page, right under the title or above the title. So I have the book.
I
Let me
love
check.
that. That's a nice touch. I like
It's
that.
above the title. So I did the interior illustrations with Joe Radkins, and actually Solomon made one for the story he really liked.
Yeah, my one piece of artwork I do a
Yeah,
year.
good job. So yeah, that was an interesting process as well, because it was like I dabbled in digital art. Oh, now I have to make like 8 or 9 pieces in a deadline. I was like, oh, good. So glad. Something I learned about Solomon, he's very good at volunteering people, I think because he's a teacher. So like he was like, good job, PL, on doing the book release. Well, in the writer's corner, he was talking about how he wanted to organize an event. And I was like, you've already had so much on your plate. Actually, somebody else suggested an event, but didn't volunteer to run it. And Solomon was like, oh, I can try to find time. And I was like, hey, maybe we should create a HOWLs event committee, and then we can have a team. That way it's not on one person's plate. And he's like, thanks for volunteering to organize that, PL. And I was like, well, here we go.
Sorry.
Yes, yes. Don't volunteer for anything or complain about anything because you have now volunteered, right? Is that the rule?
This is why I lurked before, because once you start talking, you get trapped into things.
Yeah, well, I think it's led to some success for PL because I think after people started seeing like how talented she is as an artist, like I'll have to mention her writing at some point in this episode, but she's very talented in visual art, and now she's selling her own art commissions, and like people are just throwing money at her to make like their avatars in Discord, and she has some designs available on t-shirts and coffee mugs, and like every couple days somebody uploads a picture of like, you know, their new hoodie with PL McMillan art on it, and you know, I showed off my shirt earlier, and so yeah, she's got a lot of fans, not only for her writing but for her art too.
That is very cool. I love that. I was looking
Yeah.
at some of that on your website, and it's very, very, very good. Very, very good. I loved it. That's great. I love it.
Yeah, it was like one of the things, even though like I joke about it being a lot of work, like doing the illustrations and working with the HOWLs community, it did give me the confidence to start selling my art. Because like before this whole process, I was like, oh, it's not good enough to sell. Like, who'd buy this? Like, and then people like the support, like we saw in the Discord, like Joe and I, like the main artists for the interior art, like everything we saw, like I think it gave both of us, because I know Joe has mentioned starting an Instagram for his art and possibly looking into commissions, which is really cool. So I mean, beyond writing or reading, I mean, the HOWLs Society just like helps boost each other up, which is an important thing, I feel like.
Yeah, this
um,
project has, I think it's given so many writers and artists like just confidence to put themselves out there. I think like Thea Maeve, who has a story in this anthology, she now is, you know, streaming on Twitch. Um, Alex Wolfgang, he released his collection Splinter like before he joined Howl Society, but we all support each other, and so we all bought his book, and then his sales just blew up, and he has all these reviews, and he has just been putting out so much writing. And I have to thank Alex because he did the book design for Howls from Hell and Vellum, and he's put in so much work, and it really turned out beautifully. So thanks to him. And I should probably mention the other people that helped too. Shane Hawk, he's the author of a collection of indigenous horror entitled Anoka, and he's been getting a lot of steam behind that book. He is like the Twitter workhorse. Like if you want to see an example of a horror author who knows how to promote themselves on Twitter, like he's just killing it. And because of that, he's formed some relationships. So he got us blurbs from Sina Palayo, who's the author of Children of Chicago, which is a new book that came out recently. And she was one of my Horror Writers Association mentors. I think we got blurbs from JD Horn and Laurel Hightower, thanks to Shane Hawk. And he even reached out to Stephen Graham Jones, who is a fellow Native American like Shane. And Stephen Graham Jones is now, he has a big fat blurb on the cover of our book. And so we are so excited to have not only Grady's name on there, but Stephen Graham Jones as well. And I can't forget to mention my little brother, Nathaniel Forse. So he's recording the audiobook and we're wrapping it up today. So after this podcast, he's going to be on this microphone doing some fixes. And let me tell you, like 92,000 words of an audiobook is no joke. We are so tired. I'm doing because of my music background, the sound engineer stuff. And he has a background in voice and went to school for it at Colorado State and has done opera. And he's like been a vocalist in a few different bands. And this is his first time doing fiction, and he's just killing it. And I cannot wait to put this out there. And he's volunteering his time, which is really cool. And I think that's what makes this anthology so different. Is it's like a family anthology, just all of these people volunteering their time and blood, sweat, and tears. And it just would not happen if like these like 20 people didn't, set their life aside and put all kinds of time and work into this book.
I know this one hasn't even come out yet, but is there plans for a second anthology?
Yeah, so we're planning one for 2022. And actually, Solomon he's asked me to be his co-editor for it. Maybe because he didn't want me to submit anything.
You make us look bad, and the listeners will realize that once they hear you read from your
No. I would like to say one of my strengths as an editor, I feel like I'm very good at like structuring stories to hit hard in a short story thing. I tend to be very blasé with my grammar though. The comma splice, my best friend. So Solomon and I got into it over the many comma splices I have in my story, and I refuse to take most of them out. So I have to joke with him that he asked me to be a co-editor so he wouldn't have to deal with those anymore.
Yeah.
I support you, PL. I'm also I'm getting my doctorate, but I got I'm not even gonna say what my grade was in grammar. It wasn't good. But
yeah, I asked PL because she sells stories and she has sold a lot of stories. I'm still a new writer. I'm very confident in my education and my experience as an English teacher, really for developmental editing, and then the end piece, making sure a piece of writing is polished and adhering to style guides and stuff. But she knows how to sell a story, and so I'm really, really happy to have her as co-editor for the next anthology, and that's in the works right now. The theme is secret because it's something that's never been done, and like I've been looking for an anthology with this theme for a very long time, and like Googling it, I found people asking like, why isn't there an anthology about this theme? So like I don't want to announce it too early and then somebody steals our idea and puts out a book before we can, because I want to be the first one. So that will be announced soon, but we've already got the writing crew assembled. PL, do you want to talk about like how somebody listening could submit to this upcoming anthology?
Yeah, so currently, unless it changes, the plan is to keep it to members of the HOWL Society and maybe like a few invited writers. So, but that means like anyone can write and submit. They do have to join the Discord. So again, just howlsociety.com, go to the About tab, and then the Discord link is there. And joining, you'll have access to all the same information as the other members in the Writers Corner. And the anthology planning channel is where you'll discuss like your ideas and like with other people planning to submit, and also kind of collaborate, which is pretty good. I don't know if you can hear my cat right now. He's so upset that I'm in here. Shh. He's
He
like
wants to
putting his little
join.
paw under the door. He's
I
like,
thought
"Why
that
are
was my
cats
cat,
here?"
so I'm just kind of side-eyeing going, where is that stupid cat?
I know, no, that's
That's very
Zerg.
cute.
He's
Cats
very
are cute.
codependent.
Cats are
But
welcome on our podcast. All familiars are welcome at any time.
I feel like they'll try to climb up the green screen though, and then you'll just see like a bunch of chaos happening.
That
One
would
already
be
fell in the
awesome.
toilet today, so we
Oh,
don't need any other.
no. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, so as long as you join the Discord, you can find all the information before the general public does. Solomon, did I miss anything? I was getting screamed at by a cat, so I may have accidentally missed something.
No, I don't think so. I think you hit it all.
So I do have the physical book. Ooh.
No, I love the cover.
The cover's beautiful. Oh, look at those. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's so nice. I love the color scheme of the cover.
Mhm.
That like immediately got my attention.
Yeah, it's striking when you see it online.
Yeah, it's really nice. Nicely done, you guys. Nicely done.
Well,
Okay.
thanks. I had a lot of help from Molly. She's very talented in design, so she helped me on like the best way to portray the cover, and then she did all like the wording and layout. So I wrote a sci-fi horror, which is something I enjoy writing. Please excuse the cat screaming in the background, but this is Manufactured God by P.L. McMillan. 6/14/497 AC. This is Professor Gabriella Richmond beginning audio log for the Neo-Cairo region excavation. We have landed at the entrance of the drill site, which is near the northeast corner of what remains of the city limits. The tunnel descends sharply into the bedrock at a 5% grade. To recap, the underground structure was initially discovered by First Officer Maxwell Hart's team during a standard surface scan. Speculation leans towards a tectonic shift, bringing the location within range of scanners. Gabe clicked off her tablet and slipped it into her pocket. She surveyed the jagged, broken land that spread before her under an ash-laden sky. From the archive, she had learned that Egypt had once been a place of shifting sands and endless blue skies. After the tectonic seizures of the calamity laid waste to the earth, most cities were reduced to skeletal husks as the bedrock beneath jutted up in thick, shattered cliffs, and the once dormant supervolcanoes erupted in a hellish symphony around the world. The resulting chaos had been as thorough as it had been unexpected. All human life fled, all animal and plant life perished. Now the earth was an echoing orb of howling winds, storming skies, acid rain, and dead seas. Gabe's 3 students, hand-picked from the advanced pre-calamity anthropology class she taught, had already descended into the complex and waited for her in the first room. Gabe was loath to go down into the depths. She had heard reports of crews from the other stations risking subterranean missions, but it was a general consensus on Space Station 18 that all visits should be above ground only. However, this expedition was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to take 3 of her most talented students to an unexplored site where they and she could make their fortunes by possibly discovering something new. Her assistant, Lee Redford, nudged her shoulder playfully. Around them, the wind screamed through shattered buildings, around rusted cars, and over hulking rubble. Come on, Gabe, let's get this over with. I'm still of the opinion that it will be nothing but junk down there, a verified dump of pre-calamity garbage, Redford said. Hey, we still get paid either way, she replied, her heart kicking up a notch with excitement. The entrance was located in a deep fissure between looming concrete mounds, the remnants of pre-calamity structures, stores or restaurants based on the vague outlines. From surface level, the 8-meter-tall tunnel sharply descended, its walls burnt by the intense heat of the drilling laser, which had cooked the sand into brilliant iridescent glass. Stepping into the threshold, Gabe's foot displaced sand, sending it tumbling down the severe slope. As she reached up and switched on her headlamp, Renford gave a theatrical bow, indicating Gabe should go first. She couldn't help but smile. Let's get this over with, she said, and took her first step into the darkness.
Ooh, that's good. That sounds interesting.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, that is super. Oh, I can't wait for this book.
Let's see if I can find Solomon's now so I can show the picture. Where are you, Solomon? You're 104. Ooh.
Oh, I love the artwork. That's so neat. I love that. That's really neat on the interior of the book. That just really adds something to it.
Yeah, so for those who can't see the YouTube version of the podcast,
just imagine beautiful art.
Yeah, it's like a little boy in overalls standing on one side of a creek, and then in front of him is this bush, but he probably can't tell, but from your perspective, you can see the bush is like in the shape of a skull, and that's kind of ominous.
Ooh.
Well, shall I get started? So, my story is called Gooseberry Bramble, and I just ran into, I think I was reading Adam Neville's The Ritual for our book club, and I just ran across this line that mentioned a gooseberry bramble, and I was just like, oh, I want to write about that place. And I for a few years as a boy, I lived in Oklahoma, and my house like backed up to a forest, so I spent a lot of my time as a boy like wandering around and catching crawdads and building tree forts and stuff. And so I was kind of channeling some of that for this, and it's, I don't know, I guess you could call it like hillbilly horror or something. And I'm gonna try and put on an accent, and I hope it's not offensive to any listeners in the South or any backwoods place in America. All right, so this is Gooseberry Bramble. Well, Your Honor, I suppose that was when it all began, with that warning my grandmammy gave me some 60 years ago. She looked me right in the eye, waving that switch in her hand, saying, "Boy, you stay away from Gooseberry Bramble, you hear?" She said them words near 100 times that summer, back when I stayed at her old lean-to out in the Black Cobb backwoods, while my pappy, come to find out, went philandering. But, Your Honor, if I may address these folks before us today, y'all folks know, like any youngin' with a noggin full of dreams and desire, that warning from my grandmammy only tickled my curiosities, built 'em up like a heck lot of scratching grows a skeeter bite. And if y'all ever had somebody put the fear of God in y'all during your childhood, no matter if it was with a switch, belt, or an open hand, then y'all know what I mean when I say it wasn't even till the 6th or 7th time my grandmammy fell asleep in her rocking chair on the porch that I finally screwed up the courage to sneak off to Gooseberry Bramble. I remember that afternoon like it was yesterday, tiptoeing and squeaking down them crooked porch steps every time my grandmammy took a gulp of air, snoring every several seconds or so. But when I finally got to the foot of them steps, feeling them pine needles crunching under my shoes, I reckon I was scot-free. Had the same crooked grin I got now, too, except back then I wasn't much more than 2 beanpole legs with a wild bunch of blonde hair. But I figure all y'all men out there remember being boys, so y'all know that feeling I had, heading out for an adventure, even if it meant risking a whooping. Now I reckon all y'all think the last thing this murder trial needs is some rambling old geezer yarning about his boyhood, drawing out the proceedings. Seems like no matter what I say, y'all got your sights set on Mr. Ramblewood over there for the deaths of them dozen children. But I might just change your minds, so listen close. When I swore on that Bible just now, I swore to tell y'all the truth, and that's what I'm fixing to do. So help me God. Anyhow, back to that summer afternoon. So some half hour later, after I got down them steps and done a whole lot of running and hurrying, mostly 'cause I didn't know when my grandmammy'd startle awake and come a-hollering, I made it to the river. I remember standing there on the shoreline next to that old fishing boat tied up to a tree. Never did find out who owned it, but there I was, dog-tired and covered in scrapes and scratches from my neck down to my ankles, 'cause I ran through all them nettle patches and oak scrub. Made it to that shoreline in record time, though, and
And I remember standing there seeing them pine trees waving in the wind above a patch of gooseberry bushes right out across the water. All y'all know that sensation you get when you're somewhere you don't belong, especially as a child. And maybe it was a chill rising up off the water or some kind of breeze. But as I looked out at that thicket across the river, a shivering something awful ran up my back, like a stranger done snapped off an icicle and slid it up my spine, all terrible and slow. After that, I reckon going in them bushes wasn't a good idea. There was something over there I wasn't supposed to see. But how come my grandmammy got to know about it and not me? I wasn't a baby no more, considering all the chores I was doing around the lean-to, chopping wood, fixing fence, hauling scrap. I was halfway to manhood. And heck, by the time I got through all that scrub, my tummy was a rumbling anyhow. Them berries were gonna hit the spot, no matter what was over there. So I unhitched that old boat and went across that river.
Oh my God, that was wonderful.
That was
That
really
was
good.
awesome. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to get my hands on a copy of this anthology. It sounds
Now I've got a costume prepared for reading that. Like,
oh, that's awesome. How
yeah, I'm
fun.
gonna don the overalls and a corncob pipe and all of that stuff.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, so if you want to find out what's down the tunnel that the scientists are exploring in PL's story, or what's across the river in mine, you should purchase a copy of Howls from Hell, the horror anthology. It's available on Amazon and at most other major booksellers. So please give it a chance. I think you'll like it.
Thank you so much for sharing your work and all about Howls. That was all very informative, and I am a member of the discourse, but I haven't really had a chance to jump in there.
Come on, you can lurk just like I did.
I am a
See
huge
you in a few months.
I'm a huge lurker. I had to have my grandson help me learn how to use Discord, and he was like, you're so funny, old people on Discord. So, anyway, I am a lurker there. Thank you guys for coming on and sharing your time with us and sharing your book and your society. We appreciate it so much. Thank you for listening to Burial Plot. I am your host, Joy Yaley, with my co-host, Brenda Tolian. You can find me at www.joyyaley.com, and you can find Brenda at brendatolian.com. Solomon and PL, where can we find you or your work? The links will be also in the show notes, but please tell us.
Sure. I'm just at Twitter. It's at Solomon Forse, and Forse is Forse. And just wanted to say again, the book club's on, you can find everything you need to know on howlsociety.com. PL, how about you?
So probably my website, plmcmillan.com, and that's MCMILLAN. Or you can find me on Twitter at authorplm.
Wonderful. Thank you both again. I appreciate your time so much. We can't wait to get our hands on that anthology. And listeners, until next time, stay above ground.